Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well, hope you're all doing fantastic, and that you're all having a great day. Don't forget to leave a like, it helps out the channel. It's extremely free to do. And yeah, without any further ado, let's jump right into it. There's been a trend over the course of the last couple of weeks, and I want to say 2 even more specifically, where I am seeing a lot of news that kind of used to tumble out nearly every single day beginning to re-emerge. I slightly agree with this news, but slightly, and I'm going to explain exactly how. We are witnessing the resurgence, as I've been saying, of optimism flowing back into the space. I think some people are a little bit more ambitious than others is a nice way of saying it. And this is I think one of these people. This was extremely popular news. Popular financial strategist and co-founder of Black Swan Capitalist, his name is Versan Aljara, says that he believes that XRP holders can potentially own a piece of the global money supply. I'm going to explain because it makes sense. It is weird. I don't 100% agree with it, and I think he's kind of moved too far in one direction. According to Aljara, XRP holders could own a piece of the global money supply if the XRP ledger becomes the primary infrastructure for tokenizing global economic assets. Stop moving back. One of the ideas of Bitcoin, if not kind of like, the big blockchain in the room, is that at some point Bitcoin will, this is the idea, will take over the world monetarily. I don't know how else to really phrase that. Everything you do, everything you buy will be priced in Bitcoin, more likely Satoshis. And the idea is that even debt, as we've gone over before, basically one of the ideas would be you owe $3,000 in debt. And instead of the company being like, hey, you own $3,000 because it's constantly deteriorating in value, we've moved all of our systems over to Satoshis, and therefore now you owe 3,000 Satoshis as opposed to US dollars. That's one of the ideas. And this is where a lot of times you're getting these 1 million, 4 million, 24 million, $100 million price predictions for Bitcoin. This is where they're coming from. It's like a slow and steady, wins the race, takes over the world's economy kind of thing. This is once again also hyper Bitcoinization. This is the same side of the coin. People in the XRP community believe the exact same thing about XRP, especially as we've heard over the last 2 years that the company Ripple has partnered with a number of different countries and central banks. The central banks are going to be creating their central bank digital currencies and placing them on top of the XRP blockchain, and money moving around the world and banks using XRP. You get the general idea. The problem is, my opinion, is that both kind of really push in the exact opposite direction. I believe that we are more than likely going to live in a world with Bitcoin, with Ethereum, with XRP, and with the US dollar. The US dollar will be nearly unrecognizable from what we have right now. But I think we're going to witness a shift dramatically in how money is moved. We already are seeing this right now. This isn't like a guessing game. We're seeing this right now with countries choosing to use Bitcoin and crypto to basically also get around sanctions. The idea that XRP would become the primary or the only infrastructure is far too grandiose to actually make sense, because you would also have to convince everyone and every bank and every company and every government on the planet to also use XRP. This is the idea for Bitcoin as well. While I think the masses and a lot of companies are going to adopt it, you would basically essentially need to like stronghold someone and be like, you need to use Bitcoin, kind of force them into it. I don't think the US dollar is going anywhere anytime soon. I think the value of it will continue to decrease. That's also not a magical prediction. It's just like looking at a chart since 1971, and it's only going to get worse. However, the power, if all the other fiat currencies begin to fall, we're probably going to live in a world with them where we probably have to digitally swap between crypto and all these other things to do these transactions. Because I think governments are going to have a really hard time like really letting go. Unless this prediction is like 100 years in the future, then cool. You know, I throw my hands into the air. Maybe we live in a very different world. But a lot of the predictions for Bitcoin and crypto kind of taking over the world are like in 3 years, in 4 years, in 5 years. And I think we have a good ways to go. Even like when you saw the Bitcoin price predictions from Michael Saylor and all these other people of a $24 million and $40 million Bitcoin in the next 20 to 30 years, that seems far more realistic. Even the idea of like an $800 XRP around that same exact time, if not more. I think it's going to take a while to really absorb this space. And I think people conflate it or confuse it quite quickly with the idea of becoming rich and countries bending the knee. I think the rich part is going to come first, and this is why I think we're seeing so many people and rich people accumulating large amounts of crypto, but becoming the primary infrastructure for everything on the planet. Bitcoin's not ready, XRP's not ready, but the way that things are moving, we could probably get there in the next couple of decades. See, I told you. He said, if it became the main infrastructure, they include global currencies, debts, as well as physical and digital assets. We're seeing the digitization of a lot of physical assets and things right now. A number of years ago, it was more popular in the news when it was, brand new and sparkly. A lot of rich people were digitizing gold and like not making gold, like stable coins, but like literally what you basically do is you have to put it somewhere and hide it somewhere because it is a physical item. But basically the deed for it, the value of it can be transferred directly on chain. So the idea is that if this ends up happening for every single major object or like type of assets, we're also seeing, for those of you who've been missing it, the digitization of stocks as well is also happening on a number of different blockchains, and a number of different companies are now like starting to do this as well. If this continues to work and it becomes a more secure way to do so, as you can't fake the value of something, you can't fake having something, because it would show up on chain and or not show up on chain. Eventually the world would kind of continuously move in this direction, especially as the idea of digital assets becomes more and more logical in the public mind. A decade ago, the idea of a digital asset was not a thing. And now you have museums. There are major museums around the world who are buying NFTs because they understand blockchain. They understand what it means to like have only one of something and to have the actual provenance on the actual chain. You all understand explicitly what it means to have Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Cardano, whatever coin you're holding. You see the value of it when it's actually on your computer, when it's on your phone. You understand, and now it's just time for everyone else to also jump on board as well. The financial strategist attached an image to the tweet showing that only a fraction of the global economy has been tokenized. Per the data, around $170 billion of the world's economy has been tokenized, and a whopping $1.64 quadrillion remains untapped. That is the M1, M2, and M3 money supply. That's when you get into the quadrillions, and it includes debt. As I said before, You have a mortgage, you owe 200,000 on the mortgage. Sorry, sir, we aren't taking US dollars anymore. We are only accepting Bitcoin, and therefore you now owe 200,000 Satoshis. That's kind of the general idea. And his idea is if you own some XRP and it becomes, he says, the primary, I think it could totally become a fraction of the world's economy. 2, 3, 4, 5% would be more than enough. He says you'd basically be holding the brand new money supply of the world. And here's his chart. Here's all the money in the world. And it's this little corner right here of the things that have been tokenized. I like the ambition, but it's a bit too much. I mean, who knows? Listen, we live in a very weird world. But if people can't, how do I say this? I forgot there was a joke somewhere about it. It was basically like if humans can't do, it was like if people can't show up to a party when they're supposed to show up to a party, how do you expect 8 billion people to agree on the exact same thing? And it's kind of like this as well. So I think we're going to live in a world where like things are fractionalized but together, more inclusive but still relatively separate, where you can use the crypto that you want, atomically swapping between all of them, but you're still going to go some places where they ask you to finalize in their local currency or their local crypto or whatever the case might be. But once again, I like the optimism, but maybe too far in one direction. That's the XRP owning a portion of the global money supply. And listen, it's not any weirder. It's not any weirder than Michael Saylor saying that owning Bitcoin is like owning digital Manhattan. Yeah. Don't forget, he said that like a couple of weeks ago, and it's like, what? What are you talking about? I get it, but also doesn't make any sense. Okie dokie. Let's move on. Also in dystopian news, like really dystopian, because I think a lot of people in crypto are moving backwards, and I want to say that even mentally. As far as I'm seeing a lot of like lies, more so than usual, on Twitter, and a lot of people just kind of believe them or aren't challenging them or think that things simply are this way. I'm not talking like tinfoil hat. I mean like someone going like, you know, water's clear, right? And someone being like, no, water's definitely green because I saw it before in a green tub, and it has to be like that kind of thing. So in dystopian news, and I'll preface this by saying, you all know that Bitcoin is for everyone, right? We've gone over that a multitude of times. If you missed those videos or missed the logic behind it, Bitcoin was created as a way to escape the old current that we have now monetary system. The idea being is that it's oppressive and it's not available to everyone on the planet. Everyone on the planet, all 8 billion people, should have access to crypto. And this is one of my mantras as well, where I'm like, I wish more normal people had Bitcoin as opposed to the people who already own the world. Bitcoin doesn't belong to any country. Bitcoin doesn't belong to any state. Bitcoin doesn't belong to any one person, individual. You get it. You understand what I'm saying. That's what made it weird about a month ago when we had news from Michael Saylor, who said that he wanted the US to own 51% of all Bitcoin. It's weird because it takes away the point of decentralization and people around the world being able to own this asset. Is everyone still with me? Recently, cryptocurrency mining firm, they're called Marathon Digital. They were also in the news recently when they announced that they're going to be buying an additional $250 million worth of Bitcoin. Marathon Digital announced that, because they mine Bitcoin, they announced that every Bitcoin that they mine, they will label it inside the blockchain within the coin, and they will basically stamp made in USA on all coins that they mine. The problem is, imagine for a second, for those of you who don't know, Cryptocurrency mining is still legal in China. Yes, I know. It's a surprise, right? Yeah, we had news about that before, but I also told everyone that 4 to 5 years ago. Crypto and Bitcoin were never mined within China. Is that if you want to have a large operation, you have to go to the government for approval, because people were going in the countrysides before and siphoning off electricity from small villages. We had news around 2017 and 2018 because China, front ran the entire trade. They basically had around 54% of the Bitcoin production on the planet. Imagine if every Bitcoin that they created since 2012 until 2021 had indicated somewhere that said made in China. A lot of people would have a problem with that, and you logically should, because Bitcoin is for everyone. If you start stamping Bitcoin where it's made, you are literally making the equivalent of this coin was made, this dollar was made in the US of A. This isn't something to be celebrated, and this is why I was saying it's so backwards. And I'm sure that someone disagrees with me. Have fun living the life that you currently lead, or whatever that you're actually doing. People are becoming so hyper tribal about Bitcoin that it's even gaining factions and fractionalizing itself in the weirdest kind of ways. The United States should not own 51% of all Bitcoin. Neither should Canada, neither should Mexico, neither should any country on the planet. It should be realistically around 3 to 4% should be held in every single country. We should not have a situation where we're talking about, you understand what this is? This is literal propaganda to get people to we're supposed to be moving away from the old system and not embedding it into this new monetary thing that we have. In the year 2140, people will see these coins as well. The issue is that this creates a situation where regulators can literally go, other coins have to do the exact same thing. You think the SEC is not crazy enough to do that? To basically mandate any coin or any chain that they consider to be a security to embed somewhere in it that it was made in the US. You know why that doesn't sound crazy? Because that's what the SEC already wants. That was the problem with them declaring every coin a security. The SEC wants control over cryptocurrency transactions that take place within the United States, essentially creating another barrier, basically being well, those Cardano can't leave the United States and or can't enter the United States because we're not in control of those coins' jurisdictions. Everyone keeps pretending that blockchain doesn't exist. It's very similar as well to about a year ago at this point, when Visa was hey, you want to send Ether? For those of you who weren't here, Visa, the card company, said, hey, if you want to send Ether, they're creating a new system where you can send your Ether to the Visa website. Visa sends it to a third party. That third party checks it and might send it to another company, and then it gets sent to the original person. We already have blockchain for that. We don't need counterparty risk because the chain validates everything that's actually happening on it. There's this really weird thing that's beginning to emerge in the last 6 months to a year, and I'm not really sure where it's coming from, but it's this hyper toxic, only us, not them kind of thing. It's similar to that thing about using $35 trillion worth of Bitcoin to pay off debt with China. You need Bitcoin's market cap to be over 35 trillion. You need it to be about $300 trillion. And even then, you're still selling off a tenth of the entire Bitcoin market to pay off debt. None of this makes sense anymore. And I'm not understanding. I told you before on Twitter, it's really weird. People are saying some of the oddest, the most weird, backwards things, and people are cheering for it. And it's you want the old system to remain. You want rich people to have control over this market. You don't want wealth and equality for anyone else on the planet except for the rich people whose toes you're kissing, and maybe yourself. That was a problem also years ago where I was asking us, I was like, do any of you talk to people you know about crypto? A lot of people said no. The idea is that they don't want people to steal crypto from them. It's kind of, I mean, I can't even give you multiple examples, but it's this idea like if you're buying something, you know that the value could go up. You don't want other people to be able to steal it from you. Like literally be like, oh, wait, I want to get the same exact thing before you. That's not going to happen in crypto. Like you're helping to enrich the lives of other people. We have to help each other. We have to live in a world where we help each other, or we are all lost. There is no future then. You keep holding these rich people on your shoulders and showing them so much love, favor, and affection, and you won't hold the door for anyone who's walking behind you inside of a store. These people don't care about us. We have to care about ourselves. We have to help each other. That's how we've gotten this far. Haven't you realized that governments don't care about us? Do you remember all that money that got printed in 2020? You know where that money went? It went to the stock market and to companies. Companies were able to literally request free money that was being printed. And how much did you get? Some of you got a $1,200 check. Did that pay for your rent? Did that pay for your insurance? Did that pay for anything after 1 month? You should have all literally received about a year's worth of pay, if not more. Why do you keep pretending that these people are like, it's so odd. It's so cringy as well. I don't get it. I don't understand. Crypto mining firm Marathon Digital has announced that it will label Made in USA to all Bitcoin mined by the company in America. They wrote, Mara, that is Marathon, is Team USA. Proudly declared in each American-made Bitcoin block we mine, they wrote on Twitter. It's cringe. It's hyper cringe. We're not in the 1920s. This is in 1912. You exist in a world. Whatever. Anyway, this was very popular news. This was extremely popular news. I can only ask that you continue to help each other. It's like the least you can actually do. Be nice to people. If they're not nice to you, don't pay attention to them. Go the opposite way. Help people learn about crypto. If Bitcoin hits $1 million per coin, you need your friends and your family to also benefit from this as well. You understand that, right? I can feel someone shaking their head that they want everything for themselves. I want to let me know in 10 to 15 years exactly how that works out. I mean it. Like literally let me know what happens when you're the only one in your friends group and the only one in your family who has money and everyone else is broke and has nothing. Please. I would love to know how that works out. Anyway, I hope this doesn't start a trend, because if other countries begin to do the exact same thing, and keeping in mind, you can totally be Team USA, but also just leave Bitcoin out of it because Bitcoin is worldwide. That's the problem with the influence from these people, is that once again, you become hyper tribal. Do you understand what it would mean if the United States held more than 51% of Bitcoin? It would have nearly no value. If you hold everything, if you hold the majority of something, like it begins to devalue because oh my gosh. Okay, anyway, that's the marathon news. Okie dokie. Let's move on. Also in the news, the Terra Luna Classic community has successfully passed a pivotal upgrade, potentially shaping the token's future. Terra Luna Classic and Dogecoin are back with a vengeance. They're constantly in the news all over again. We had Terra Luna Classic news, not the Terra Luna news about the Three Arrows Capital, but there was something else recently where they're trying to do. I don't remember. There's a lot going on. It's called the Tax Number 2 Gas Proposal. and is developed by Genuine Labs and received overwhelming support, with over 67% of validators and delegators voting in favor. The crucial upgrade aims to streamline the tax handling process by integrating it directly into transacting gas fees, thereby enhancing efficiency and minimizing manual calculations. Sure, why not? These coins basically are kind of working on like burning as much of their coins as they possibly can. Some of these coins are trying to have somewhat of a comeback. Not holding my breath at all. I think it's interesting what these projects are doing, but it's, I commend them for having lasted this long, because 90% of other crypto projects have kind of disappeared. But the basis for Terra Luna Classic and Shiba Inu right now seems to likely be burn as many coins as possible so that it can go up in price, kind of thing. I think they'd have a lot more longevity if they had like actual projects and updates and upgrades and partnerships with them as well, because you just burning coins won't last forever. And also, like, the hype of you doing it needs something else. We need some kind of longevity. That's the Terra Luna Classic news. Let's move on. Also in the news, Coinbase is once again asking the US SEC to change their rules after a year-long attempt to expand a bureaucratic definition of the word exchange, which, if successful, would bring the DeFi ecosystem firmly under the regulator's purview. Let me explain. Coinbase, Kraken, Gemini, and Binance have had issues over the years with the US SEC. The US SEC is by far the most stringent regulator in the world. Not even the US, no, like it's literally the entire world. The US SEC believes that except for three coins, every other coin is an unregistered security. And if a crypto exchange has those coins on there, basically you need to register with them in some sort of way during the transactions or during the this or during the that. This is why Binance left, why Binance US is winding down, and also why Kraken left the US as well. The other part of it is DeFi, in many cases, runs through decentralized exchanges. The keyword being here, exchange, where you can swap coins and you can do this and you can do that. The US SEC believes if you are able to swap a coin and or exchange it, and it's within the United States, it should fall into their purview, their view. They want to see exactly what's going on and they want a record of those transactions. And that's why over the course of the last couple of years, when I told all of you to stay away from DeFi, because a lot of it wasn't DeFi, you might remember that the DeFi companies were all taken to court or were sued or were given letters and stuff like that from the US SEC because they weren't DeFi at all. They were literal, like, physical locations with people working in an office who were clickety-clacking away at the computer, who were controlling everything behind the scenes. Thus, the US SEC is like, there's a big problem with these things, and if they are actually DeFi, they can't essentially touch them. But if they aren't, you have to register with us. The other problem is that crypto exchanges have basically been throwing DeFi on their shoulders the last couple of years, talking about how amazing, awesome, and cool it is, and they've begun to integrate it. Coinbase, Kraken, Gemini, and Binance have all integrated DeFi in some sort of way. The idea being, basically, they want your info and they want your data. This is the only reason why they're integrating it, but also so that they can charge a fee as you're interacting with these protocols as well. The problem is that these are crypto exchanges who are dealing with decentralized exchanges within the United States whose transactions are going through the United States, and therefore the SEC wants information on them. The other problem is that the crypto exchanges basically don't want the SEC to look at anything that they're doing. What the problem is, they're the regulator, so they're going to regulate in the worst possible way that they know how, but this is what they're doing. So Coinbase is basically telling the SEC that they need to change their policies. I don't know if Coinbase, maybe they've never met the SEC, but that's not how any of this is going to work. In an 8-page comment submitted to the SEC on Monday, Coinbase Chief Legal Officer Paul Grewal chastised the potential rule change as arbitrary and irrational in several respects and urged the agency to abandon its effort to apply the proposed rule to decentralized exchanges. Have you ever, imagine like monsters were real. Imagine there's like a 30-meter, a 60-foot tall monster. Arr, he's running towards you. He's, crazy. You run into a house and your first thought is, I need paper and a pen. And you write him an 8-page letter telling him why he should abandon chasing you and how arbitrary and irrational his actions are. Do you think the SEC cares? You know how much money these companies have spent on lobbying and trying to convince the SEC to leave them alone since 2015? This was popular news and it was touted as something whatever. Playing avocado here. The problem is that DeFi is rife with scams. The problem is that you can create something and call it DeFi and just rip people off and then people lose their money. The issue is that there are a lot of people in crypto who are completely untrustworthy. We've been talking about them and those other YouTube channels for a number of years. The issue is that a lot of people love crypto and love DeFi as long as they are making money. But over the course of the last 4 years, 90% of these protocols have disappeared. I forgot this was months ago. We had some other news story. The on-chain analytics companies looked through all the DeFi projects, the things happening on Solana, like all these things. And I think more than 90% of them were scams or rug pulls. The issue, similar to Mr. Fantastic or whatever, Kevin O'Leary. Years ago, I was thinking of like literally Mr. Fantastic from the Fantastic Four. A number of years ago, once again, he was totally into DeFi until he got rugged and the protocol that he was using disappeared, and then he ran to the SEC. We've seen countless times within this space that people keep throwing their please be careful where you put your hard-earned money. It's not that difficult. Just don't put your money into freaking scams. And you know they're a scam too. People put their money into these things thinking that they're front-running everyone else, that they're at the top of the pyramid, and then when they get rugged, they run to the SEC. That's the problem with crypto. Multiple problems, but that's two of them. There are tons of people who are just looking out for themselves. They do not mind scamming other people. And the secondary part is, the dirty cherry on top of the cake is that instead of like staying away from these things and being more cautious, people pump their fist into the air talking about how much they can't stand the SEC until they go, oh my gosh, I lost money. And then we've had countless people who have run to the SEC. Literally, like major people and normal people who run to the SEC in the cryptocurrency space to try and get their money back. To find, no, I was scammed. Just stop dealing with these things. It's not that difficult. The problem, for those of you who don't know with DeFi, one of the problems is that often these protocols promise a very high return. So if you're staking Ether, I think it's a 4% return. If you're staking Cardano, I think it's 5 or 6. I don't remember, like those numbers, normal numbers. A lot of DeFi protocols, I've seen them, will offer a 38% return. Some of them have said a 94% return. First of all, anything higher than like 10, 11% is like red flag. Like red flag, in case you didn't know. It's the same exact thing with dividends. For stocks, The reason why these companies are offering you a 14, a 22% dividend is because the company's not doing too well. And they're trying to incentivize you to essentially put money into the system, into the stock, with the incentive of we'll give you extra money. Anywho, so Coinbase is going to continue this, whatever they're doing, and they have been doing for a while. This is very reminiscent of 2019, where Coinbase literally told us that they didn't need normal people. I'm sure you all forgot about that. Where Coinbase was only creating protocols and different things on their website, and only rich people were allowed to use them. And we were basically, don't forget this, and we were basically pushed to the side with all their institutional grade things. And when the institutions didn't immediately rush in to save them, and in 2020 they weren't immediately there to come, to their help and their aid, Coinbase began to launch a whole bunch of things on Twitter. You remember this, right? Where they were like, we need to come together. We have to be a community together against the SEC. And it's like, well, you told us we couldn't even sit at the table with you, and now you want us to give you a fork and a plate? No, it's absolute nonsense. So yeah, all these companies have integrated DeFi, I winked, you couldn't see it, into their platforms, which is, none of these things are actually decentralized. Like the idea that most people have, and I'm sure many of you, with DeFi is that like it literally runs on its own. There's an AI or some kind of a system that like no one can control. You can maybe like add things onto it, or you can do so and so, but you can't just simply like open a door and take all the money out. And that's why none of these DeFi protocols are actually DeFi. So of course it makes sense why the SEC is still being like, no, we're definitely going to try and get control over it, because people keep scamming. Right. I do hope that you've all enjoyed. I do hope that you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever the heck you might be. I do hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.